Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. On Fridays, we talk about the product owner role in Scrum. We talk about patterns and anti-patterns that relate to ours and the team's collaboration with the product owner. And we've also put together a course to help you navigate that relationship. There's 18 modules, nearly 8 hours of tools, techniques, videos, handouts, presentations you can use to help you and your team work better with your product owner. The course is available at bit.ly/coachyourPO. All lowercase, all one word. That's bit.ly/coachyourPO. And now, on to the show, the Product Owner Show. Hello everybody, welcome to our TGIF and Product Owner episode this week with Ravi J. Hi Ravi, welcome back.
Hi Vasco, thank you for having me. Delighted to be here.
Absolutely. So Ravi, on Fridays we want to explore the Product Owner role because it is a critical role for a Scrum team. So let's dive into that and share with us first what might have been potentially the worst Product Owner anti-pattern you've witnessed in your career.
Now, I'll be honest, Vasco, right off the gate. I've enjoyed coaching product owners than actually doing the role. This is because when I actually did the role a couple of years ago, I found it really hard to take some of my own advice and actually do a really good job. Additionally, I found myself reflecting on the kind of product owner that I was, e.g., was I a visionary? Or was I a mini CEO, or was I a down in the detail, a team level, the owner of the product? Even in my startup, when we were building products with my own money, I did not take on the role of determining what large piece of work to invest in. Now, that decision was made for me by my CEO. So I knew that I was not a mini CEO. I realized that I was good at informing myself with some data points so that I could make some good priority calls and sequencing decisions. The trouble was, the methods I choose to inform myself introduced errors into my assumptions.
What do you mean by that?
I am happy to clarify. I have always preached asking the customer about their needs instead of going off an assumption of their needs. But when I had to do this role myself, I found that I was being satisfied by relying on my own common sense and on the opinions of the people around me. Don't get me wrong, there were some decisions and need clarifications that are fairly obvious, and we do not need to decide everything by committee, and I'm not talking about those kind of calls. The cardinal sin, Vasco, that I was committing, and this is an anti-pattern as a product owner. I was meant to represent the needs of my customer, but I ended up representing my assumptions of the end user needs, since I was not really in touch with the end user, Vasco.
So basically, your assumptions started to replace the search for feedback from the customer. Is that so?
Exactly right.
And of course, we know that there's many things that can go wrong in that particular situation. Perhaps you have something to share with us, but let's illustrate what is that? What are the things that can go wrong when people start to follow their assumptions instead of customer feedback, and then what we can do in order to try to avoid that situation?
Now, the typical, this is probably a good illustration of diversity. And Vasco, now we are all certain kinds of people. We use products in a way that is familiar to us, that is guided by several things in our upbringing. Now, I am a certain kind of person. And for that reason, my assumptions about how I use things started seeping into my assumptions of how everybody uses products in a certain way. So for example, I am a right-handed person. So when I use my mobile device, I click using my right thumb and I interact with the user interface using my right thumb. And obviously, I would usually reach things on the right side of the page. And I'm being very, very low level detailed things because I think this kind of stuff is really important when it comes to interaction design and making decisions on the low level detail. Now, for me, it was fairly obvious that certain positioning of certain elements had to be in certain places because that is how everybody uses the product, right? But what I did not do is consider, for example, the left-handed user. For example, somebody with a learning disability or somebody who had vision impairments or somebody with accessibility needs. I did not think of any of those personas because why? Because I was not in that persona. So the great thing about making that mistake, Vasco, is your product tanks because the percentage of the people who are like you are unsurprisingly not the great enough for you to start making money off the back of those decisions. And the minute you make it hard for people to use your product, they stop loving your product. And I have failed because I like to create products that people love to use. As mitigation, I would stop just relying on my way to assess the use of a particular piece of product or a particular piece of interactions that are on the page, and I would ask for representative input. Which was diverse, which had, and we would usually employ um, a team of experts who would do accessibility testing, who would do user research, and inform me about how to make reasonable functionality decisions and reasonable interaction design decisions, Vasco.
Definitely. One of the things that we as product owners and Scrum Masters working with product owners need to take into account is that the deep understanding of the customer needs to take precedence over our own assumptions and even preferences.
Exactly that. And remember, like I said in the beginning, I was all too happy preaching to my product owners that they should do that. But when it came time for me to take my own advice, I found that I didn't. And now, and that's when it became clear to me that following that advice is really hard under the time pressure, Vasco, because we have a job to do, and sometimes we take shortcuts to get to the end.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important for us as Scrum Master to consider the relationship and support with the product owner as one of those critical relationships that we need to attend to.
Exactly right.
So next we turn our attention to the opposite, the mirror image. What might have been potentially the best product owner you've ever worked with? So describe that product owner for us.
Now, this is a good chance for me to talk about the PO that watched me make those mistakes, and we were conscious about making them successful right off the gate. This PO did two things right. They spoke to their leadership and secured the buy-in to land user researchers into the team and not just use an external consultant. And this user researcher would inform himself of the user's needs and really validate our own assumptions of their needs. Because let's get this right. When we express the user needs, we are expressing the user needs based on our assumptions, right? And usually what happens is between the time that we express the needs and between the time that it is ready for developers to begin the work of engineering, that is a period where we go and validate the assumptions. And that has nothing to do with the mechanics of a Scrum product owner, right? But it showed me the focus on outcomes that a good PO has, right? And so beyond the mechanics of Scrum, beyond doing things like e.g. prioritizing as a means to an end. So he demonstrated the soft skills that you need when it comes to negotiating, getting what you want, having the right practices in the team, which is beyond Scrum. The other important soft skill is proportionality and portion control. This product owner, when it comes to a discussion and debate on topics, whether it is a user story or a mechanic, is always based on relative value. Not all the user stories or topics have the same weight and hence do not get the same attention, Vasco. The reason I'm saying this is because I like to talk and because I like a healthy debate, I often am guilty of giving the same airtime to topics who don't deserve the same airtime. Now, a really good peer that I was talking about just now, who watched me make those mistakes, made those mental points, probably because he was being hurt by my practices of being inclusive and being accommodating of everybody's need to talk about a subject. He would then say, listen, this topic may be interesting to some people. You can have those conversations in your own time, but not on the team's time. In the team's time, this is proportional to this value, and I'm not going to talk for 5 minutes on this topic. I'm going to time box that to a minute, and that's all the time we have to talk. If it doesn't get resolved, fine, have a conversation separately, but it doesn't bother me that it doesn't get resolved. And that level of honesty, it has nothing to do with Scrum, right? You could try any agile method, but that soft skill carries on. So oddly, what I'm saying, Vasco, is you can have Scrum product owners who follow Scrum methods and good practices to the T. They will be moderately successful. But the really good product owner that is a mirror image of me, which is he does things that are my mistakes, is those soft skills that have nothing to do with being a Scrum product owner, but to do with a good leader. Those are the things that make a product owner go from good product owners to really great product owners, Vasco.
Absolutely. And that's a great description of a lot of things for us to look into and help our product owners get to that level. Thank you for sharing that, Ravi. We're getting close to the end, though. But before we do go, where can people find out more about you and the work that you're doing?
That's a good question, Vasco. At the minute, I work for this consulting firm called North Highland, and I lead their agile transformation practice in the UK. Every day, we are trying to do the right things for our clients by helping them transform and change in the right way, because at the minute, Vasco, our clients are worried and they want to face the post-pandemic era in their best footing. And I'm trying to do my best to help my clients through North Highland in getting to that great place. People can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is at Ravi_J1. People can read my articles on my website. It's www.ravi-j.com.
Absolutely. And we'll put the links to those on the show notes so that everybody can find Ravi and get in touch, connect, and share questions, share perhaps ideas, and of course, why not give feedback from what you've just heard. So, Ravi, thank you very much for your generosity with your time and your knowledge.
Thanks for having me, Vasco. It's a delight to listen to you.
One more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast is over, but there's a lot more we have to share. We have developed our own membership site where you find a community of active and engaged Scrum Masters. In this site, you get access to exclusive content and get to interact with us, your podcast hosts, as well as the best Scrum Masters in the world. Join us at scrummastertoolbox.com/podcast and keep this podcast free of advertising. See you next week for one more week full of Scrum Master tips and tricks. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.